Hello and welcome back to Kim's Cozy Corner. I'm Kim and I'm glad you stopped by. Today we are going to up pot some herbs, some lettuces, as well as some rhubarb. Come with me and let's get started. Welcome back to week 8. If you're new here, I hope you subscribe because there's tons of useful information on gardening, do-it-yourself projects, as well as some cooking and preserving. There's plenty here for you to explore. Today we are on week 8 and we're going to do more uppotting of the vegetables that we've already started, as well as start fresh some new seeds for basil. First, let me show you how things have been doing over the last week. Welcome back to my week 8 seedling update. Let me show you how my young seedlings and pots are doing in my indoor grow space. The salad that I transplanted into the pots are doing very well. The orange hat, which is a micro dwarf tomato plant, is doing really well. There's some cauliflower that I'm going to need to transplant here in the next couple of weeks. There's some more broccoli and cabbage and stonehead cabbage. So my brassicas over there. There's some herbs in there. Some more cabbage. I planted cabbage again last week and I had 100% germination in those. Here's some lettuce. This is the lettuce that I have left that I have not transplanted yet, and it looks very healthy. Down here, I have my peppers, and they actually broke ground at about 10 days. So with the heating mat at 75 and watering and everything else that I'm doing, it was about 10 days, and I had germination. And I have germination in every cell and every plant that I put in here except for one, which is my habaneros, I guess is how you say it. There's nothing in its cell yet. The hostas we haven't talked about, but they're not doing anything. I don't know if I'm going to get lucky this year or not. And here's my red begonias, and then the white begonias. They take up to 28 days to germinate, so we just put those in last week. Here I have a lot of my greens, so I have my kale and my mustard greens and collard greens, and they're all doing very well. And my second round of broccoli and Napa cabbages down here. The celery is actually doing very well. I added additional shelving to my grow tent so that I could have even more space in the grow tent to put more seedlings as well as some pots so I can enjoy the harvest now versus waiting to spring when we can get outdoors into the garden. So as you can see, the onion are doing very well. This was a grow bag that we transplanted about 3 days ago, and it's looking really, really good. More onion down here. And these are some of those second rounds of onions that I planted along with some leeks. Here's a sweet potato project that I did not share the recording, but I'm not going to share it unless this works. But hopefully we'll get some sweet potato slips there. Here's my romaine lettuce. I moved it to another area so I could use fewer grow lights to save on the electricity bill while I can. This is dynamite, transplanted 3 days ago. More lettuce here. That's broccoli that I've transplanted into a grow bag, and it's actually filling out very nicely. The potatoes we backfilled, and I'll show you a clip from where we backfilled the potatoes, but now they're well above the rim. Moving over to the GreenStalk. All of my micro dwarf tomatoes are up high, and you can see they look very healthy. The orange hat are the ones that we transplanted about 3 days ago. Everything else is looking good. We're eating lettuce faster than I can grow it, hence why we went ahead and potted up some of the lettuce. Very healthy. You know, I really should have put more than 5 carrots in each of these pockets. I don't think I thought through that properly, but nonetheless, the carrots are up and doing well. This, another day or two, I'll be able to cut it again, as well as this one. This is black-seeded Simpson, and this is green salad bowl. And then down on the very bottom is my bok choy. Look how big it is. Oh my goodness. It's been 3 weeks and they look absolutely gorgeous. All they got to do now is thicken up, and I'll be eating baby bok choy very soon. That's it for my week 8 seedling update. This week, I also added more soil to my potatoes in my pots behind me. And here's a short clip on how I did that as well. We need to backfill our potatoes. We started these several weeks ago from little potato seedlings that came from my 2022 garden that had started to sprout. So we found some good looking ones and we put them in the soil, and they have already broken ground. They're already up to pretty much the height of the container, especially this one here. And this one actually, believe it or not, looks like it wants to bloom right here. So we want to get these backfilled as quickly as possible so they can continue to grow. The reason why you need to do backfilling, there are 2 types of potatoes from a growing style. They're determinate potatoes and indeterminate. Determinate potatoes put all of the potatoes on one level. Those don't need to be backfilled. But indeterminate potatoes will grow potatoes, they will sprout out all the way up the stem. If they're under the ground, they'll grow out new roots and put potatoes all along the stem. That's what makes an indeterminate potato. So you bury them deep and you keep backfilling them, and you will have potatoes at multiple levels. That's the difference in the 2 types of potatoes. The problem that we have is that I have no idea what type of potatoes I have that I pulled from last season's garden, because I had some of both. And I didn't document which was which. So when I harvest potatoes, I kind of just threw them all together. So I don't remember which was which. So we are going to use the backfilling method just in case these are indeterminate potatoes. So we are going to go ahead and backfill these 2 containers. And backfilling is literally just what it says. So you want to take your dirt, soil, potting soil, whatever you're using, and you want to fill in around the plant until only a little bit sticking out of the top. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't expect to get an indoor potato harvest on these, but when I set them outside, they should be ready to just really take off to give me an earlier harvest from the main garden and the main growth period. But this one is good to go. Now, I may need to top this off one more time once the plants truly get up here several inches above the top. I'll add just a little bit more because I don't want any potatoes peeking out to the sunlight when I do get it outside, because if the potatoes get sunlight, they'll turn green, and that green part of the potato could make you sick. So you don't want to eat green potatoes that's been sitting in the sun. All right, this is my bigger pot. And you'll see here that all of these plants are practically at the very top of the container. But we are going to backfill this pot. These are all extra in my mind because I didn't purchase these. These are left over from last year's garden. Now, I do have some that I purchased on their way here, but if we can get a few early potatoes that didn't cost me anything other than the soil, which I will use and refresh over and over again, I'll take it. I know there are red potatoes and white potatoes in here. I just don't remember which red potatoes and white potatoes they are. There you have it. Potatoes have been backfilled. Now that you've had a chance to see how things are going in the indoor grow space, as well as how I added additional soil and backfilled the potatoes, it's time for us to talk about what we need to do next. One of the first things that we need to do is separate these vegetables. Basically, we're going to up pot them because they are getting extremely root bound, and it's time for us to put them in a larger container. I will be doing that for this dark rodent lettuce. So we'll give an individual cell for each one of these. And for the bib, we will do the same thing. We will separate this bib out to give it some individual growing space. Then we will move into the herbs. So the herbs have been growing in here for 8 weeks. They need definitely some more room for the herbs that I have here. And then we have brassicas, and then we have rhubarb. But let's take care of the lettuce first. For the lettuce, I've already got some trays set up ready to go on the side so I can speed up this process. If you want to know how to fill the trays, please watch weeks 1 through I believe 5. I showed it every week on how to do that. I also showed it on week 7. For week 8, I'm going to try to speed up the process a little bit here. But we are going to take this dark rodent out, and we're going to transplant it into individual cells. So I am going to gently separate these plants from one another. See that? I still have roots on each of these. So I am going to put each of them in their own cell to give them a little more room to grow. So it looks like I have 7 plants. So I'm going to create a pocket here, stick the roots in, and I honestly probably should put this in a larger cell, but this is what I already had out and prepared. So this is what we're going to use. When you stick them in the pocket, you want to put the soil back to the same level, right at the root line. And there's a new container with 4 dark rodents in it. I'm doing the same process, but in this one, I'm giving it a little bigger container. There's another. And next, we're going to move into these bib lettuce. And I'm going to be honest with you, I got to look and see just how many are growing in here. I don't know what we're getting into. Well, for one, it's massively root bound, massively. So we need to get these separated. So I am going to just pull some of the roots right off the bottom, loosening them up. It might not be as bad as I'm thinking it was going to be. So there's only 3 in there. In that one pocket, there were 3. There were 4. Excuse me, 4. So for those of you who are new here, I have been gardening for over 10 years. I grew up on a small family farm with my grandparents. I'm going to be honest with you, back then I did more watching and just eating than helping. But I think I learned some good tricks from the way that they ran their garden and for the family and how they preserved food. My YouTube channel is only a couple of months old, but I'm bringing at least 10 years experience with the YouTube channel. A new for sale of the bib, giving it some room for those roots to stretch out. And I'm going to do the exact same thing with these next 3 cells. Butter crunch is done. And that's all I have for the lettuce. So I ended up with 6 cells of dark rodent from 1. And for the butter crunch, I started with 4 cells and I ended up with 12 cells. And each one of those plants, if I went to Home Depot or if I went to Lowe's, to pick up one of these plants, I would pay anywhere from $3 to $4, actually, maybe even $5. I can't remember the price last year for this lettuce, which I got in a pack of about 2,000 or 500, a ridiculous amount. Let's move on to the brassicas. These seeds were more than 10 years old of this particular broccoli right here. And they actually came up, which I didn't think they would, but they came up. And so I have 3 teeny little plants here that I am going to up pot. So the soil is extremely dry in this cell, but we're going to transplant these into larger pots to hopefully strengthen this up and get them growing again. Get some water, get some fertilizer on them. When you first plant your seed, you don't need fertilizer. You got your seed starting mix, which, by the way, typically is soulless. And you don't need fertilizer when you first plant your seeds. All of the energy and the food and nutrition that little seedling needs is actually in the seed itself until your plants come up. All right, so that's the broccoli. And I had a leftover broccoli from where I up potted some earlier this week. And so I just used the same packet of cells that I had for that. So that's the broccoli. Now I'm going to do something about this Napa cabbage. So I have 2 cells of Napa cabbage, and I have 6 very strong plants in there. And we are going to move that into this 6 cell here. So it has plenty of room to stretch out and continue growing. So they are looking good. When I'm transplanting, I'm only going to put them back into the soil at about the same level. Now, if it looks like it was, the roots were sticking out, I may cover it just a little bit, but you want the top of the roots right there at that soil line. There's the Napa cabbage. Now let's move on to this rhubarb. This rhubarb has been growing in here for 7 weeks. I know it's root bound. It has to be root bound. And they grew so fast and got thick so quick. I think I need to use some of my larger containers and give each and every one of them their own personal home. So it can spread its wings, its legs, whatever, stretch its legs out, find some new growing room in there so it can keep growing. And it should be much happier. There you go. You got some room now. This rhubarb has been sucking up lots and lots of nutrition from the fertilizer and from the grow lights. It's happy. It wants to continue to grow. It's big, it's pretty. Now, I've read that it takes about 2 years for your rhubarb to really start producing. But I'm hoping that I started this early enough that we can actually get some rhubarb this year. Look at that. I wanted you to see that taproot on that thing. Look at that. Now, this one has 2 in it. And I'm going to keep them in there. I'm going to see how 2 will do when you already see that they get super thick roots, but I'm wondering if I can put 2 in here to give me a nice big bushy plant when I get ready to put it out. So let's see if it makes a difference. But it grows so quickly, this is probably a bad idea. But I only wanted 2 plants and I have 5. So if this one is packed too tight, I can always separate it the next time I go to up pot it or when I go to transplant. So this is interesting because the margarine and the thyme looks very similar. So I'm going to have to be very careful in my labeling of this particular of these herbs. So we're going to do the thyme first. I'm pulling away some of the root ball that's at the bottom. But I want to keep this plug though. I like the size of this plug. I'm going to see, can I just give it a little more room? Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to split them. They're just too thick. With the size cells that I'm putting them into, it wouldn't grow anymore at all. Oh, it smells delicious though. Oh my goodness. Well, this year I've decided that I want to put it in the ground. Some of these herbs that I grow, and I'll have to look, I don't know if this is one of them or not, but some of them are perennials. And, there's no reason for me to have been doing what I'm doing, which is replanting them every year. I should put them in the ground once and done type setup. So I will be putting those in the ground this year to see if I can get them to come up year after year. And I have a spot already designated for all of my perennial herbs. But I have chives, two different kinds of chives actually, that I've planted in a GreenStalk. And, they look like they're peeking their little heads up this year. And if they are, great. And I'm going to try to transplant those into the ground to free up my GreenStalk space and put them in my landscaping as, a plant that comes back every year with my other perennials. So I've decided that I'm going to put the oregano in here with the thyme so that I don't get it mixed up with that marjoram because it looks so much alike. And I am going to mess up. I'm really, really going to mess up with that margarine. So we will put the thyme in here. The oregano in here with the thyme. So this is the margarine. Oh, that's different. I've never tried margarine before. I really like that. It definitely doesn't have the fragrance of basil, but it does smell good. I could see me using that on some kind of chicken dish. It's a very light, fresh scent, the fragrance. For those of you who've been following me, you'll know I've never grown margarine before. I've never cooked with it. I said, let me give it a try. There's the margarine. I've got my growing space set up for my basil. I'm going to put them in here with my cumin. And I really should not have did this with the cumin. The cumin I should have planted as seeds in the outdoor growing space. But you live and you learn. But we'll see if we can transplant it out. But it's an experiment. There's no loss of 6 seeds when you have a pack of 500. But I have my basil growing space. And I'm going to put it in here as well. And I still have one little oregano left, but I'm going to put 5 cells of basil. I grow a lot of basil. I use a lot of basil. And my daughter actually comes here to fill her spice containers out of my pantry. And I think she picks up basil at least once a month. So I need to grow plenty of basil this year. I have let my basil go to seeds, and I've planted my actual basil seeds from plants from one year to the next. But I'm going to be honest, I can't tell you where those are right now. Somehow or another, they got separated from the rest of my seeds, and I don't feel like digging for them. So we will just use these seeds that I've purchased. So the basil seeds, I just put them right on top and just barely cover them up with just a little bit of soil. They don't need much. And I know I'm going to need to up pot these later. So I put about 4 or 5 in each cell, and we will separate them and put them in some larger containers as they grow. And then we will do this container as well, but I will use a different name brand. There's still Italian basil, but two different name brands. One of these I got free from GreenStalk, and then here's another one that either I purchased or I got free as well, but they're from two different companies. So I'm hoping it'll give me a better chance of good germination. I can't believe it, but I got exactly 4 seeds in every cell of this basil. 4 in every cell. Okay. And there's the basil. That's it for all of the up potting. So let me show you my work. So there's the tray of everything that I've up potted for week 8. There's all of the herbs, the lettuce, the rhubarb, and the brassicas. I hope you found this content useful. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel so I can keep this video content coming. My lights are going off in my grow tent because they're on a timer and it's getting late in the day. So I'm going to have to call it here. Thank you. Enjoy growing. Bye-bye.